again, everybody. Welcome to this webinar, when to use Agile methods for project delivery and when not to. It's potentially my longest webinar title so far, but there you go. This is one of Wellingtone short webinars, so it's scheduled to take approximately 20 minutes. Within that, I'll take you through a bit of a presentation, and there will be time for a Q&A at the end. At least that's what we always plan for, right? If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please pop them in the question panel and we will deal with them at the end. So let's jump in. I'm going to start with a few introductions. Then after that, I'll take you through what is the key challenge that we're dealing with that has prompted this webinar. Then I've got a bit of a presentation around Agile, what it is, benefits, challenges, when to use it, when not to use it, and then I'll lay out some potential next steps for you after that. In case you don't know me, my name is Karin Moll. I'm a senior training consultant with Wellingtone. Got a background in project management and also learning and development. So I've kind of found a bit of a sweet spot job role here, spending my days in education about project management in various forms. I'm also one of our lead trainers and the co-creator of our APM accredited course, Agile Project Management, which I'll see if I have time to talk about it at the end. I will. If not, there's more information on our website. I work for a company called Wellingtone. If you haven't heard about us before, please do let us know how you ended up in this webinar, because that'd be really interesting to hear. For those of you that are familiar with us, apologies, I'll just spend a couple of seconds now making sure everyone knows who we are. We are a fairly small consultancy company. We're based in Windsor, kind of within walking distance of the castle, albeit not exactly next door to the Queen, as it were. We do also have offices in Ireland, in Madrid, and we also have a partner in Costa Rica. And what do? Well, we're on a mission to help our clients achieve a step change in their project management maturity. And we do that primarily in three ways, either through consultations around ways of working, methodologies, processes, maturity, etc., or around technology implementation, so enterprise solutions to help improve how you plan, control, and report on your projects. Or my favorite thing, training. We do training on all matters project management, from kind of introduction to project management to APM accreditation and qualification preparation. We do change management. We have a whole academy on how to set up and run a PMO. And of course, we've got one of my favorite courses, Agile Project Management as well. So that's how we are. Hopefully, of course, we hope to stay in touch with you guys as much as possible. Right at the end of my presentation, I will show you a slide with our contact details, both for myself, if you want to get in contact with me, and also for Wellingtone. But what are we dealing with today? Today we are talking about the challenges to do with being able to choose the best way of delivering particular projects. So choosing the method, whether it's waterfall or traditional project management or Agile, to maximize our chances of success. So in order to deal with this challenge and to respond to the challenge, to the question when to use Agile and when not to, I'm going to start by talking about what Agile is not. And the reason for that is Agile was a response to challenges and problems and shortcomings, we could say, in the traditional ways of doing project management. So we can't really start by talking about Agile without first understanding what it was a response to. So when we talk about traditional project management, it had lots of different names. We might call it traditional, we might call it linear, we might call it waterfall project management. They're all kind of one and the same. And it generally looks like what you have on this slide. So we do the project in a linear fashion, step by step, divided into stages. Typically, we have some sort of initiation, startup, concept stage, whatever you call it, where we start out, figure out what is this project, what is the problem, the opportunity, what is it roughly that we're dealing with here. Then we go into the next stage where we take that kind of high level idea from the previous stage and we dig into it as much as we can. Break it down into a lot of detail, try to nail down exactly in specific terms, what is it this project is going to do? What does the solution look like? What are all the requirements? What are all the features? What are all the things we want to do? And then we get the customer or the end user, who, whatever is appropriate, to sign off on that statement of this is everything we will do, the scope statement. And then we use that to build our plans, our schedules, etc. Detailed documentation for exactly how we're going to implement the project. And then we go into that implementation or deployment or development execution stage. Again, can have many different names. Effectively, this is where we do all the work to put those plans into action. And then we get to the final stage, our closing or transition or handover stage. And that's where we have some form of thing, right? The output or solution. And we hand that over to the customer or end user, and hopefully that meets their expectations and it is still what they want or need. Okay? That's traditional project management, waterfall project management. And it's great for providing structure, predictability, a way of planning something we haven't quite done before. It's a unique piece of work. It's quite a specific piece of work. Waterfall project management, when it was brought in, revolutionized how work happened and increased successes in project work hugely. But it does also have some shortcomings, like everything does, right? With waterfall or traditional project management, in order for it to work, we have to spend quite a lot of time upfront creating detailed plans. And in order to create those plans, we have to make quite a lot of assumptions. We assume that the customer or end user or whoever has come to us with the problem or opportunity, we assume that they know what they want, as in they know what the solution or output should be. How big should it be? What color should it be? What should it be able to do, etc. And we assume based on that we will be able to define a scope for the project up front and be able to say, this is exactly what we're going to do. And we also assume that that scope, once we have nailed it down, is going to stay the same for the remainder of the project. Because if we do make any changes in a linear or waterfall project, it tends to become quite expensive and cumbersome. Also, in a waterfall project, there can be quite a lot of waste. Partly due to the fact that we spend so much time planning, but also because when we ask the customer up front, right, you need to tell me everything you want and everything I should do, and you need to sign up to this paper here that says everything I will do, because I won't do anything that's not on this piece of paper. The customer and the end user is likely to tell us stuff that they think, oh, I better tell them this just in case, or I don't want to lose out, so I'm just going to tell them all these things that I can think of, just so we get that on that piece of paper. And then, of course, as we go into the project, we will do all the things that's on that piece of paper. When in reality, the customer might only have needed or gained true value from about maybe 80 or 90 or even 70% of the things that we had on that piece of paper. But because we're working in that way, we're very driven by documentation and what has been signed off. Focus becomes more on fulfilling what has been documented and signed off, rather than finding that actual value point for the customer. And that's where we get quite a lot of waste in traditional project management. So Agile was created, or was born as a reaction to these challenges. What is a different way for us to work so that we can deal with these challenges in a practical way? So how is Agile different? Well, so if we say that waterfall, traditional project management, is about we're here, okay, I have a problem, I have an opportunity. All right, what's the problem or what's the solution for this problem? What is it I need to do, right? Let's define that, let's nail it down. That's our end goal. Let's then create a plan for step by step how we're going to get to that goal, right? That's a traditional project. In an Agile project, we're starting out in the same way. I have a problem, I have an opportunity, but I might not know what that end goal is or what the solution is. It might be because we're working with something like a digital software where everything is so new that there's no way for me to know what the solution might look like. I have no way of knowing, right? The only way for me to find out is by testing things, seeing them, seeing, does this work? Yes, it does. Does that work? No, it doesn't. And then being able to change it. Or it might be that we're working in a situation where we think maybe we need to go in that direction, but I don't know for sure, and there could be quite a lot of changes along the way. So rather than then doing the linear thing and kind of forcing thing onto a scope statement and forcing everything into a big plan that we can then sign off, when we know that that plan is based on nothing really, and rather than just throwing ourselves into work, we say, right, let's take a really structured and disciplined approach. Let's use Agile. So in Agile, rather than setting the goal and then planning how to reach that final goal, we say instead, right, let's focus on what we know right now and what's important right now. And let's plan out just how to do that one thing or those few things that really nicely contain things. Then we implement that. And then we take that back to the customer so that they can test it and they can have that learning. So we work, rather than mapping out the entire project, we work in little, very disciplined cycles where we focus on what do we know right now. And that gives us that opportunity of starting with just what we know or just what we need right now, developing that and then testing it. And that allows us to then change direction in our next cycle. And very importantly, each of those cycles that we work through needs to be quite short, okay? Usually about 2 weeks, we say, is a good amount of time, 2 to 4 weeks. And the reason for that is that gives us a lot of control and it gives us a lot of flexibility. And what it also means is by working this way, it means that the customer might take something away every 2 weeks potentially. It might not be that they take away a product or a thing as such, but every 2 weeks, at least they might learn something new. They might learn that that thing didn't work or that thing works better, or gain more knowledge about their problem or opportunity. So advantages and benefits with Agile include it allows us to move forward in those situations where we're not sure about what scope is and we're not sure about what the end goal is, but we do need to take action now. So rather than saying, well, because I don't know what my end goal or the end solution is, I'm not going to take any action at all. Well, that's not always a good option. Or saying, well, because I can't really plan this in a traditional way, I'm just not going to plan at all. I'm just going to throw myself in there and see what happens. Well, that's not very good either. Agile allows us that middle alternative where we have structure and discipline and a way of breaking things down into those small cycles. So we're always in control until we find what our end goal is. It can help speed up time to market. So because we have that 2-week cycle, and at the end of every 2-week cycle, potentially there is something that the customer could take away or that could start solving their problem. There is a potential that we can put something to market quicker than if we have to wait until the end of the linear or traditional project. It is a way of reducing waste because the customer will have more of an insight into what we're doing, so they don't have to commit to a bunch of arbitrary things up front. We can start with what we know and then build on that and take it in the direction that actually adds value. And it improves collaboration, both with the customer, because they have to be constantly involved throughout that cycle, but also with the project team, because we'll be working as one team together for the entire project, working really closely in those disciplined 2-week cycles. There are a few challenges as well. Nothing is ever 100% great or 100% bad, right? So some challenges with Agile delivery methods is first of all, in order to make it work, it requires a really big mindset shift. And in my experience, most people don't quite get it until they are actually in it. They don't understand what a tremendous shift it is. And I often find having conversations with people that are on the journey, they're kind of clinging on to the old linear traditional framework, but starting to use Agile words. And just using the words or the new tool or new process isn't enough. It's an overall mindset shift that is necessary. And that is really, really difficult. And it doesn't always fit with organizational culture or ways of working because, again, it is such a different thing to do. It does require a lot of discipline, a lot more discipline than traditional project management, in fact. And it's not all organizations or teams or individuals are able to work that way. It does also require what in Agile terms we call a dedicated and cross-skilled team. And that sounds funny because surely we're always dedicated to our work, etc. But what we mean in this situation is that we have a small group of people on the Agile team who are fully dedicated just to that project. And they have to be dedicated just to that project and for the duration of the project, because otherwise we won't be able to move forward with the cycles in the right way, and we won't be able to learn from one cycle to the next to continue doing things better and better. And a lot of organizations aren't set up that way. We're set up in a way where we have a very particular skilled person in one subject matter, another one in one subject matter, and they're booked up and they have fingers in lots of pies, they're involved in lots of projects. So if we're going to get that guy over there to work on our project, well, we're going to have to wait until the 10th of October or whatever it might be, or he's only available every third Thursday. Well, that's not going to help us be agile, right? Because we're going to consistently be tied up working to that guy's schedule. And also, one thing that a lot of organizations struggle with, it takes time to get agile right. It's not something that you plug in on Monday and by Tuesday you see an improvement. It's such a big shift in ways of working and mindset and practices that it takes a bit of time to get right, and we have to allow it that time. So when should we use agile methods? This is kind of the key point of the presentation, right? Well, so the first thing is, if you find yourself in a situation where you can't define scope for your project, not just that I can't be bothered, or it's not the most fun part of project management, so I'm not gonna. It's literally we cannot. We don't know what the end solution looks like for this problem. We just know that we have to start taking action now. Okay? That's where agile really, that's what it's made for. Okay. Or if we're in a situation where we say we kind of think we know what scope is, but it's so ambiguous, or we think there might be lots of change, etc. Well, again, agile might allow you that flexibility and structure to deal with them. Or if you're in a situation where it's more important that we get something to market or something in the hands of the end users quickly, rather than getting the whole or complete or the perfect solution. So if we're in a situation where we say, well, as long as we give them something basic that they can start working with, and then we can add to that later on or improve on that later on, well, then agile is a really good idea. If you have a really active or involved client or customer or end user, so someone that can be there at the end of each cycle to test and review and give you new input, etc. If you have that dedicated and cross-skilled team, so one group of people that will stay together for the entire project, cycle after cycle after cycle, etc., good idea. And also if you're working with a team or a subject matter where there are very few or even no dependencies. And I mean that both in terms of the actual work, so that you have a subject matter that you're working with where it is actually possible to start with any which part first, and that you don't have to lay things out and do kind of a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. If you're working in that sort of setting where it's really important that you do specific work and do it in a very specific order throughout the projects, or maybe you're actually better off just scheduling that out in a linear fashion and doing it as a linear project. And then the other type of dependency, of course, is external to the project. And again, you have to assess your situation. Is the work that we do, is it really dependent on someone else's approval, decision, expertise, etc., so that we can do a little bit of work and then we have to stop and wait for someone else, etc. If you have that all the time, again, you're not going to be able to move very quickly, you're not going to be able to be very agile. So it might be worth considering just doing a linear schedule where you can schedule in time with decision makers and experts, etc. So when to use agile and when not to use agile then? Well, it's the same list actually. If these factors aren't in place, you might actually be better off not going agile and instead using a linear project. So if you're in a situation where you can define scope, well then you should. And once you know what you need to do and what's in scope, then you should plan it out and you should do that work. As in, do it as a linear project. If there's no value in taking those steps to evolve and explore and discover what the end solution is, well, don't bother going through the pain of setting all of that up. Just plan it out and do it. Okay? Same thing if you don't expect a lot of change, you're quite sure about what it is you're going to create or build, etc. You know the route there, you don't think it's going to change, just do it. Plan it, do it as a linear project. If you're in a situation where it's not good enough to get just something to market, it has to be the complete or perfect thing straight away, a final product, as it were. Well, again, then there might not be a lot of value in doing Agile. You might be better off just doing it linear. If you don't have an actively involved client or end user, it's just not going to work, really. So again, might be better just doing it linear. If you don't have that dedicated or cross-skill team, again, you're just going to be caught in an endless cycle of stops and starts and not having the right people available. So you might just be better off creating a linear schedule, plan it out, and then do it in a linear way. And the same thing, if there are a lot of dependencies, again, you're going to have lots of those starts and stops throughout your project. So just maybe map those out, create a linear plan, and work through it as a linear. So as a couple of next steps, if you're interested in learning more on this topic, I really recommend visiting our website. We have an absolute ton of articles on various topics, including Agile. It includes how-to guides, common problems and challenges. And they're all for free, and you don't have to log in or download anything like that. So I really recommend that. We do also have our unique, the only APM accredited Agile course in the entire world called Agile Project Management. I was one of the co-creators, so obviously I will recommend it, but I'm very excited about it because it is quite different. It's not a traditional course in the sense that you have an agenda and then we'll take you through that. No, from the word go, as a delegate, we throw you right in it and we say, well, this is now an Agile project. So from the moment you walk into the classroom, more or less, you have to start using processes and tools and practices to co-design the course with us. So you come away not just knowing words, you've actually done things, seen them, and sometimes it goes horrifically wrong. No, I shouldn't say that, not horrifically, somewhat wrong. But then that's, you know, the things that could go wrong in the classroom are the things that could go wrong in your place of work as well. So it's a way of exploring that and preparing you for what it will be like in the real world. We do also have a number of communities for people that have been to our courses. If you have been on one of our courses, you haven't joined the communities, please go ahead and do that. And we do also have our Dr. PMO clinic with our internal consultants. You can book a 30-minute time slot after you've attended a training course, and that can help give you more targeted advice or more personal next steps for how to move on. And then, as promised, if you have any particular questions or you do want to get in touch with us or stay in contact with us in some way, you have my email there. It's karen.moll@wellington.co.uk, and you also have contact information for Wellington. I am, of course, on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me there and ask any questions you might have. And finally, a really good opportunity for some further learning and opportunities to ask questions, not just to Wellington, but to peers as well. Our upcoming future PMO conference is on the 6th of October, I believe. Hannah, do correct me if I'm wrong. The 6th of October in central London, and it's a really good meeting place for people in the world of project management and PMO. We have some interesting speakers, and opportunities to network and get to know colleagues in the same field. So have a look at futurepmo.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found that useful, and I hope to see you again. Thank you very much.